Um, Sorry about that. Just like setting up the. All right. Cool. It works. It just yeah. The first time I'm using YouTube for that. Because they got rid of Google. I mean, you still. It's funny. You can still use Google Hangout, but you're forced to use YouTube. So I don't know. It's like Google Hangout is in YouTube from now on. Don't know what that means, but works. All right. Well, hope I wish more people came, but
Yeah,
it's gonna be a private lesson then.
I'll probably only stay for about 45 minutes with my girlfriend and then she's done at the store. And, yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So.
No, it's cool. I mean, I have plenty of time, and I have some slides I will post at the end of the class.
Awesome.
So let's start then. Sorry, a little bit late. So yeah, so my name is Adrian. I work as an Android engineer at Lyft, and I've been teaching at a school for like more than 1 year now. Lost my nice. So tonight I'm going to talk about like the coding interview, like what you like my general advice and tips for getting a job of your dream in whatever startup. Do you work in a startup? Do you work in a big company? Do you work in something completely different?
I'm not even in the industry at all.
Okay.
I'm a student at City College, and I've been attending that for about a year. So I've been programming for only a year, and
that's cool.
I work at the library. So yeah,
okay.
I'm more of a beginner / intermediate. So yeah, but I'm happy to be pushed a bit. So.
Yeah. So that would be like based on my past experience. I'm not claiming to be an expert in interviews, far away from that, but I did, I mean, I attended a lot of interviews, I passed some, I ran some interviews as an interviewer, of course. I passed like different interviews, like let's say in companies such as Google, Apple, Lyft, of course, Square, what else? Well, small startups. Well, it doesn't matter anyway. Sometimes I got the job, sometimes I didn't get the job, sometimes I got an offer and I declined. So multiple situations, of course. So yeah, so it's gonna be the topic of tonight of the Race School. Also something I always forget to mention. So Race School is like a non-profit organization. So if you want to make a donation, actually consider making a donation to Noisebridge. They're super nice to us. All right, let's get started. So first, kind of warning, like I'm not like my advice and my tips are like my general experience and what I had from feedback with the companies I work for or I interview for, and doesn't guarantee like if you follow any all of my advice, I would say you have like 90% of chance to get the job, but it's like this 90% is coming from nowhere. It's not like I don't guarantee you a job at the end. It's all about you. It's about your skills. Like let's say you're not like a good fit for the job, you're not gonna be hired even though you did all your best, but at one point they will, yeah, it's not a perfect like workflow. But it does contain like a lot. Well, there's a typo. It does contain a lot of great tips. All right, so the roadmap for tonight is first gonna talk about finding where you should find where you can find the job. Sorry. Then how to prepare your application for getting the job of your dreams, and after we'll explain like my general advice about the phone interview, and then the most important, which is the on-site interviews. So usually that's the general process. Like you're gonna have like a phone interview, because of course it doesn't allocate that much time to have a phone interview with you instead of like asking you to come on site, and then the on-site interviews. It's like the tougher because usually it's pretty long, especially in our field in the software engineering. It can be from 2 hours up to like I did one which was like 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, that was. No, on-site, yeah. No, for interview is usually 30 minutes, 1 hour, no more. You just want to have basically a general like opinion about the candidate, observe like his reactions, and awesome. Just lost the. Sorry for that. And so, yeah, because usually it's very costly for having on-site interviews. You get to imagine if you're like passing an interview with like, let's say 4 engineers, you're booking 4 engineers for like, let's say 1 hour each. So the company is losing a lot of money. So it's kind of expensive to ask you to come on site. So they want to be sure first, like you're an appropriate candidate. But just same everywhere, not only in software engineering, of course. But software engineering, the problem is like you have a lot of candidates. So it's tough, especially in this city. All right, so the first question is like, where can I find this job? So you have multiple sources where you can find them. Usually, my general advice goes for AngelList because it's like all the startups. You can see what series they're like running for, how many employees they have. Like you have a bit of detail that can be interesting. And they are posting a lot through this portal because that's the main idea under this website. It's for hiring at the beginning, not only for listing startups. Then careers from Stack Overflow is nice as well, more general, but it's like, it's Stack Overflow, so it's like kind of professional. Then the recruiters on LinkedIn, usually it's going to be a great source of like for finding a job. I receive like a bunch of offers usually. The only problem is like you get to like filter with different offers you receive because sometimes it's not very appropriate. It's like hiring companies and they don't know really what they're talking about. So you get to, like try to scratch a little bit the cover and like try to understand what's in the hood, if they know what they're talking about, or if they send you like just like a copy of like a Word document. Usually it's that. You can it's pretty easy. You can, let's say when you receive a message on LinkedIn, it's pretty easy to tell if it's just a copy and paste or if the recruiter really wanted to target you. Sometimes I receive, like for example, I have this example. So this funny guy who sent me an offer and he's like, "You the best fit for this job, and I want you and only you, Adrian." And like it was for a senior Rails engineer, whereas I'm like a beginner in Rails and Ruby, and it was asking for like 15 years of experience in Rails, whereas Rails has actually been released, if I'm correct, in 2005. So it's kind of complex. It's kind of tough to find the perfect candidate. So when you see like this, like you get to basically analyze the message and find these different red flags. That's the point with LinkedIn, but it can help. Of course, the meetups. Go to a lot of meetups, talking to other engineers, because that's the best contact, because usually you see the person, they can see you as well, and they might have a great feeling with you, and the same for you. So it's also good for you because you can tell if you would like to work with these people or not. So that's, I guess, a good thing. And of course, the fattest is like, play with your network, use referrals, use your friends, use your former coworkers. And I guess that's the fastest way to get a job, because usually companies paid for referrals, and they are like more likely to trust referrals than pure application coming from like let's say their own portal, because they are more likely. And I guess some people can tell it makes sense, some will say no, but they are more likely to trust their own employees instead of like trusting the internet and like random people applying to the company. Yeah. So before applying, my general advice is, especially in San Francisco, if you're looking for a job, is you should like list, like instead of like applying to any offer you see on websites, just wait a little bit, just identify like the different offers you want to apply for, like shortlist them, or like just grab all the links of the job offers and put them like somewhere else, and wait to have like all the different offers. I mean, the different offers, like just wait to be done with your research before like starting applying, because you might like realize that actually, like let's say an offer you shortlisted at the beginning is not relevant anymore, or you might have found something better, or you actually let's say one of the first offers you shortlisted, you realize actually you're not a great fit for the job anymore. You find something more specific to what you want to do. So general advice that I'd be actually applied to any kind of sector. But with software engineering, it's like you have a lot of offers, so it's pretty easy to get lost into all these offers. And of course, rank them by interest at the end. Very obvious, I guess. But try to apply for all. That's also my general advice. All right, so now, as you're ready to apply, you get to work on your application. So working on your application, first, of course, the resume. General advice, I guess you already know that. My opinion is like a cover letter is actually important, especially if you're like applying through a portal. If you're applying through referral, it's easier. But usually, running a cover letter, if you're like applying from scratch, you don't have any contact, you're just using the website or Lovell or I don't know, whatever website you use for applying. Try to write a cover letter. If you're applying for a startup, by a startup I mean like a fund, a small company. Well, a corporation can be fun as well. Sorry for that, but let's say a startup, you got to make it fun or original, because they receive a bunch of like applications, and if you want to be different, you get to do something funny or original or fun. Let's say a bad example would be if you start your cover letter with like, "Dear Sir, Madam, I'm like, please apply for your company, blah blah blah." This kind of cover letter for startup is gonna go to the trash bin at the beginning. But if you apply for something bigger, such as Google or Facebook or Amazon, they are not. You can try the fun one. It might work if you are very confident in your skills, but I would say you should like try to be more classic, of course. Maybe Facebook a little bit different. Google, I guess no, it's too late. I guess it's too corporate to make it still fun. Except like if you have a bunch of like awards from like a science fair or whatever, and you're super smart, then you could try. But let's say Amazon, like it's gonna be classic for sure. So that was so just like if you're perfect fit, just like the classic workflow. But let's say you saw an offer, you're not like skilled for this offer, but it's something you want to try. Let's say you want to change from your building website to a tired of building website. You want to do data science, so you're gonna start like being data scientist. You're not skilled, and you want to be honest with the company you're applying for. So it's not impossible. It's gonna be tough for sure. It's not impossible. So what you got to do is like first, of course, improving your skills. So you get to learn a little bit about the tech, about the stack, about the libraries they're using for, let's say, doing some data science. You've got to know about Python, to know about Go, to know about the classic algorithm they're using. Let's say you want to start in mobile development, you get to know either like a little bit of iOS and Android development. And if you can, it's not easy, try to learn about the way the company use these technologies. That is kind of tricky sometimes, but let's say if they have a blog, just go on the blog, read like the different articles they have from the different engineers, and you will like usually they explain, let's say, what they did or like what tools they have, or like just go if they have like any public repos, just go on GitHub and like look at the repos, the library they publish. Maybe try to like play with one of the library or tools they have over there. That will show, of course, your motivation, but you will be capable during the interview, if you have any interview, that you know this tool or technology, and like you pro and cons about it, and they're really gonna appreciate it because you're like paying attention to the company. And I think the best way to learn is like doing some homework. But a homework is there like the one coming from the company, because sometimes to be sure you are like a good fit, they send you some homework. But what you can do too is, I don't know, let's say you want to start in mobile development, it's fine. Just start to create like a very basic mobile application. It's a small homework, and it's the best way for learning. If you just get into the pool, that's the best way for learning. And of course, mention it into your cover letter. Like, let's say if you did something to apply, something funny to apply for that company, like let's say you do a mini game or something like that, just like send it along your cover letter, and it will show like you're very motivated. Try to do your best. Like, yeah, it's actually really tough to get a job in a startup, except if you're like from if you're from big universities, it helps a lot. But if you're not, try to do your best to get in. What's up?
How's it going? Sorry about being late.
No worries. I was late too.
Oh, great.
Quick question, are you going to discuss algorithm coaching or?
Yeah. So just like I was talking about, like where you should find where you can get the job, then the application, and then I will like talk mostly about the
Cool.
Um,
Adrian, right?
yeah.
Akash.
Hey, yeah.
Good of you.
Yeah. We remember you. Hey, Adrian, nice to meet you.
Hey, Greg, nice to meet you. I think it's, I don't know.
Akash,
Greg.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, just done. We started like 10 minutes ago, so you should be fine. So just to show you again, so tonight I'm actually not doing about Ruby or anything like that. I'm talking about coding interview.
Okay.
So I will send you the slides at the end, so don't worry about what you miss.
Sure.
You can always get it later. And so right now we're talking about like where you can find a coding job and or to prepare your application. And I'm almost done with the second point. So so once you submit like your application, my advice is to circle back after a few days with the company and like especially if you didn't hear anything, to show again your motivation. And if you have if like the best ways to circle back is like emailing, tweeting, show motivation, tweet to some engineers like the recruiting and work again. Sorry for that. All right, we're back. Oh, because of no power? I don't know what they're doing. Well, all right. So let me check the Hangouts. The Hangout still works. All right. So once we do it, circle back, email, tweet, and yeah, and no worries. All right. So fortunately, I mean, I hope for you they got back to you. So now it's like the trickiest part, because you're gonna have like first a phone interview with them. I mean, with the potential company. So to be ready for the phone interview, you have it's actually the advice I'm gonna give you right now. They're actually valuable for the on-site, I mean, the on-person interview as well. It's like the same knowledge you should have. But on phone interviews, usually they are like asking something something more. They are looking for something more specific. It depends on the company. Some companies, they will have puzzles, like coding challenges for you. The most famous example for that is Google. Google usually will ask you puzzles, general puzzles like about sorting, about finding elements, about data structures. Usually these coding challenges or puzzles, they are like very abstract. They don't represent any I mean, they can be used for solving a real problem, but usually they are like pretty generic. They're like pretty like a math problem. Then some company, they will ask you more questions about a specific tech. Let's say you apply for a Ruby job, they will ask you like a bunch of questions about Ruby. Like, how do you do that in Ruby? Or like very specific like edge questions about Ruby to know if you know, like, I don't know, to do some introspection, or like about specific technologies such as, I don't know, in Ruby would be a lot of questions about Rails, like, how do you build this kind of model? What do you do a helper? Do you do, I don't know, not an expert in Rails, so just using my very small knowledge. But that would be, some companies do more of this kind of question about, like, yeah, that's advanced question. Of course, you will be testing your communication skills. They want to observe how you are talking through the phone, or could you explain, because you have no visual contact, you're not like in front of the whiteboard, you're not explaining, you know, you cannot do like gesture or anything like that. So you have to explain in a very clear way what you are trying to solve and the path you're using for solving the puzzle or the problem. And other companies might ask you about architecture generally, like what do you, usually on front end it's pretty infrequent, but some of them they have like quick questions about architecture. Question?
Yeah, so some resources for puzzling coding challenges. I feel like we all know Code Wars, CoderByte, HackerRank. Do you have any other suggestions or places we could find them, or we could find?
I actually have a slide just after. Yeah, but you don't have like that many sources, but you have some. It's like in 2 or 3 slides. You get to be a little bit passionate. Any other question, by the way? Am I going too fast or anything like that? Yeah. Well, you see my public yet. So of course, before the phone interview, work your technical skills, but that is pretty obvious advice. Something some candidates usually forget to do is like checking out Glassdoor, because on Glassdoor usually people are like tracking and listing the different questions you might have during a phone interview. And trust me, we're all using the same question for phone interviews. I mean, let's say for a specific company, we have like somewhere a document with all the questions we're supposed to ask. So it's not an unlimited source of data. So you might have the question again. So try to not cheat, but let's say, you know, try to help yourself a little bit before starting the interview. Through the phone, try to list some, that is for you, list pertinent questions you would like to ask to the recruiter about like the next step, of course, in the process, about the company. Try to identify any red flag, because let's say on the phone, it might be a teammate in the future, so you want to know if you would like to work with this person or not. So, and also it shows your motivation, like try to ask questions about the company, like what they're doing in terms of like money and this kind of stuff, like what the next step in the, let's say if it's a startup, like what are the next goals? Are they thinking of like expanding a lot? Are they thinking of going on to another market or doing something new? What's, let's say it's a very small company, like what's the next step? Are you relying on investment? This kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a real success. So it's actually, so you said Code Wars. CodeFind is on your website. It's actually slightly different because it contains like challenges from a bunch of, sorry. Whew, that was a long day. So CodeFind is actually a website listing puzzles from companies such as Uber. I think you have GoDaddy, might have Amazon. So you have different like startups and big companies listing some puzzles on this website. And if you're capable of solving, you have every time it's a series of 3 puzzles. And if you're capable of solving this series of 3 puzzles, you will be in touch with someone from the people team over there. So let's say you have the Uber one and you pass like, usually the first one is easy, the second one is medium, the third one is pretty tough. Third one, like let's say the first one take 10 minutes to solve it. Second one is might be between 30 minutes and 1 hour. Third one might be like about 3 hours. So, and they're like, of course you have a timer. So if you really want to do it, if you really want to work for Uber or whatever, Try to manage some time to do that. You can always come back and try again. It's not like something lost forever. But try to manage some time. Something maybe not very clear when you start the website. It's like similar to Code Wars. Like you can test your solution, and you can only submit your solution if it works. Like you cannot submit like a sketch of your solution or a draft. Questions for phone interviews are mostly from, you can find a bunch of them on CareerCup, especially from big companies, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple. They will be all on CareerCup. You can find some questions they ask during interviews, but mostly it's like from phone interviews. Then my two general advice, if you would like to be 100% ready to a coding interview, is like first the book, Cracking the Code Interview. That's the best book I have like in my bag, I guess. Like you're gonna be better will be ready for a coding interview because you have everything from like the beginning, where you should go to find a job, until like passing the on-site interviews. Does anyone know this book, or is it probably new?
That's the 4th edition. The 6th edition, the green one, and it's very good.
Yeah. Well, I just read this one. I haven't read the other one, but yeah, they're all good. I mean, it's fun to see in person anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm reading it now, and it's at the library. It's like tons of holes on it all the time, so it takes forever to get.
Yeah.
You can keep it for 3 weeks, and maybe you'll buy it someday.
Yeah. If you're applying for, you have a bunch of problems in this book. I mean, don't be afraid if you can solve the ones at the end, which is usually flagged as intermediate or like advanced, because they're super tough, and you're more likely to not like have these problems during an interview, except if you apply for a very tricky job, like something implying a lot of math or reasoning. Let's say a very like secret job at Google or Apple, where you're gonna work in the lab, or if you work for a very senior position. But even for a senior position, your management skills would be more assessed than just your coding skills. What's up?
Oh, yeah.
And then usually for algorithm, what I do is like I go on Wikipedia. That's why I put the big logo in the middle, because I think they're like pretty good. Sometimes they say for sorting algorithm, all that stuff, you have like some animations where they show you like what's happening. So I think that's the best for like when you would like to work on like your classic algorithms before an interview.
So CS50 is that intro to computer science class at Harvard, and they have a YouTube channel called CS50, but they have very good videos on sorting algorithms and data structures.
That's right. I mean, I didn't know yours, but I forgot to mention YouTube is also sometimes like a good way. You have podcasts and great YouTube channels from everyone. So yeah, it depends. All right. So if you have already the books, I mean, especially Cracking the Code Interview, my general advice is before coming, you get to work on your data structures. You get to know what's a binary structure, you get to know what's a hash map, linked list, stack, a queue, binary heap. You don't have to know everything like, to be perfect in all of them, but be at least capable of knowing the basic algorithm. Let's say how a binary heap work and how you're supposed to like pop something and push something into a binary heap. And so if you don't know them perfectly, know the concept and be capable of like rewriting the algorithm very quickly. Simple hash map, you have different like definition for building a hash map. Maybe know a couple of them. Try to improve your knowledge and improve your knowledge as much as possible. What else? Of course, common algorithms like know to sort, but kind of related to like binary history of these kind of structures. As a lookup, sorting. I didn't put the tree, of course, in the data structure, binary tree. And I put some graph algorithm. It all depends, of course, on what kind of job you're applying for. Let's say there is a big difference between applying for web development, mobile development, and data science. Data science, you might need to work on like, of course, you're gonna work on big databases, run a bunch of statistics. Maybe you need to work like crazy algorithms to analyze a bunch of data, so like graphs, trees. Well, I'm not an expert in data science, but like for sure you have a bunch of serial classic algorithms to find things or compute like average numbers. That, for example, for a data science job, it would be what you should look at. But let's say you work on web development, you don't need to know like crazy data structures usually, but you need to know like how to interact with server, like more about network protocol, this kind of stuff. And let's say mobile development, it would be more about threading and about performances, caching, this kind of stuff, and also how to improve your algorithm to have like the I think I've already said performances. I don't know the point that I can remember. Well, not a big deal. Yes?
What sorting algorithms do you tend to see more often? Do you think that we should kind of focus on?
Like the classic one, like a merge shot. Which one do you? I can't really remember. I should work again on my merge sorting algorithm. Let me check the list again. So the merge shot, of course, the first one I have in mind. Then you have the bubble sort, but like the. Of course, you should know the basic ones like the bubble sort, insertion, selection, merge, and then merge, heap, and well, basically I would say this guys plus the bubble, but bubble is pretty easy. Bubble is one of the first approaches. Yeah, so a quick sort, a merge sort, like you can, if you have time, you can learn why which one you should use in different situations. Like sometimes you have like this these kind of questions. I'm just remembering right now you were saying about something I didn't put in my slide. Is there's this new startup named Triplebyte, something like that. Yeah, so where you can basically that's the first one. It's you can apply and you have like you will start with a series of 40 questions, something like that. It takes like up to 1 hour. And then you have an interview for about 2 hours, like it's pair coding with someone. And if you succeed the coding interview, they will give you not a job, but you will pass directly on-site interviews with one of the startups from Y Combinator. And like the former companies of Y Combinator, like you can get a job at Airbnb or like Reddit, for example. So that's one of the ways. And there's a kind of trick. You can pass the online test. It's always the same question though, but you can pass the online test to test your skills, and they will ask you like a bunch of like the first question like pretty basic, but then like at the end they're pretty advanced. And for example, I can remember now there is a couple of questions about sorting algorithms, and like let's say what algorithm should you use when like let's say let's say all the lists but 3 elements are not sorted. Like should you run the merge sort, should you run a heap sort, should you run a quick sort? This kind of question. So yeah, Triplebyte is like an alternative, but it's pretty tough to get a job.
What was the Glassdoor link or the questions?
Pardon me?
Oh, if you go back to the search results,
Yeah.
there is a now.
This one?
Yeah, it gives you some of the questions that.
Yeah, I know. Well, the test is like available for everyone. You just get to enter a fake email address and you can pass the test. That's not very smart.
Yeah.
But then you can pass like there's a 2-hour interview and they have like some puzzles. Let's say they will ask you in 1 hour to write an algorithm for like playing a crossword or something like that. So you have 1 hour, whatever language you want for crossword.
Like Connect4?
Oh, Connect4,
okay, yeah.
Connect4, yeah. Connect4.
You mean like programming the game or programming AI player?
No, beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Well, in 1 hour, it's going to be tough to program the AI. But if you're capable of doing that, that's awesome. So yeah, yeah. So it's always a good base. So whatever domain you want to apply for, web, mobile, data scientist, or something else, it's always a good base. But then try, like, let's say it's a lot of knowledge to have, so try to filter depending on what you're more likely to have questions about during the interview. So also other tips I have, it's like do a lot of cunning challenges because you got to learn how to be fast. Like you have a puzzle, you get to identify patterns very quickly. Usually when you start a fun interview, like on-site coding interview, you have like about maybe 2 minutes on the phone interview. It's like 1 minute to figure like the interviewer is gonna be like, what do you have in mind? What do you think you're gonna use for something that? And usually it's of course, it's like the last tip of this list of hints on the whiteboard. It's better to start with like easily than trying to find like the perfect solution at the beginning. Like just try to say like, okay, I found a solution. That's not the best one at all. I know it's like not good, but that's my first solution, and then I'm going to try to improve the solution because it's usually that, you know, like you don't start with like the best solution. It's better to do something and then be like, okay, I can improve that, or I know like, oh, here or there I have like some issues, because it will also demonstrate like the way you work, and or you identify like problems and like when you look at some code or some algorithms. So yeah, do a lot of coding challenges to be fast and to identify patterns like quickly. Like, oh, here I need a tree, here I need a stack, here I need to sort some stuff, or here, oh, it's already sorted, so it's like a binary search tree, this kind of stuff. And of course, be comfortable. Well, for the phone interview, it's not really valid, but for on-site, of course, they are mostly in front of the whiteboard or on paper. Paper not really these days, but mostly on the whiteboard. So be comfortable like writing on the whiteboard, you know, like let's say when you start an interview, usually you are like running in the middle of the whiteboard, and then you end up with like a bunch of algorithms like on the right side, on the left side, and you have like function, you know, ending there, and then starting over there in the other direction. So try to like, if you know, if you're an interviewer, you're gonna be like, I don't want to work with someone who is such messy. So try to be clear in what you're doing, and don't be like, don't be a mess, yeah. And don't be ashamed to say like, okay, what I wrote before is not true. We're gonna start again, or like. Be comfortable like in erasing some stuff on the whiteboard. Yeah. Any question? Think cool? General advice, yeah. Of course, something. So more about communication now. Get to speak a lot. For both phone and on-site interviews, don't be silent because like the interviewers, they cannot know what's happening in your head when you're thinking, and they are interested to know the way you think. So it's actually, instead of thinking, you're just talking. Like you say everything you have in your mind, and don't be ashamed of like saying something that sounds foolish or something like that. Don't be like, okay, it's what or like be clear about that. Like you know, it's kind of like if you feel you're gonna say something dumb, say something like, I have this idea and I don't know if it's the right one. Like don't be afraid of like sharing your thought. Like they're supposed to be your teammates. Like it's not gonna be like every day a relation between you and them as an interviewee and interviewer. It's gonna be like they're gonna be your teammates, or like your manager, or like your engineering manager, or whatever. So don't be afraid about like sharing and asking their opinions. Or be like, do you think it's a nice solution? Or like listing the things you are not very comfortable in the algorithm you're writing. Let's say you're writing something, you're like, I feel like here there's maybe a better improvement I can do in the just after, but I don't know yet, or something like that. Don't be afraid of like sharing what you have in your mind, because of course if you just stay in front of the whiteboard not saying anything for several minutes, it's gonna be a bad experience for both of you. Be also comfortable in dealing with multiple, with several people at the same time. Some interviews are like pair. Let's say at Apple, usually you have two engineers in front of you. So it's a really tough pace sometimes because you get to, deal with two people at the same time. Sometimes they're like coming from like two different fields. They're mostly coming from the same team, but let's say one is more like, I don't know, like an architect, and the other one is more like an engineering manager, for example. So they have two different domains. They're gonna try to test on their respective domains. So don't be surprised if like one question is kind of like related about the code itself, and another one is related to like I don't know, architecture or something like that. Yeah, and also what I was, don't know if I made it clear, but I said like they're supposed to be your teammate. They're also hiring a teammate. They're not hiring their boss usually, and so they want to know if, even if like maybe you're not the smartest guy in the group, if they're the person they feel the most comfortable with, you're more likely to be hired, because they're gonna work with you every day, maybe for like a few months or a few years sometimes. So they want to be comfortable with you. They want to be they want to have a good time. Like they're gonna work with you all day. So, and I think as an interviewer, you would expect the same thing. Like when you see someone or you're not like very comfortable with, you are less likely to hire, of course. All right. So now, if you're super lucky and super skilled, and I hope for you, you're gonna go on the on-site after the fun interview and like sending your application. So the tips I shown before, as I said, they were like for any coding interviews, so they are still valuable. Be ready to talk about more architecture on the same interview, because now you have a whiteboard, you can draw some charts, whereas like on a phone interview, let's say usually it's on a Google Drive document or like just a spreadsheet or I don't know, like a piece of code somewhere on the internet. Whereas now you're in front of people, you're doing like kind of presentations. So let's say if you're applying for web development, you're gonna have a question about how do you architecture your website? What kind of technologies do you prefer? Do you have experience in that? What are like your feelings about this technology? Or did you like make your mind about the specific technology? Why are you using Rails and not PHP? Why are you using Go and not Python anymore? This kind of stuff. So talk a lot. Talk about your. Try to not, of course, to force people to match like your way of architecturing, but like try to explain the pros of your architecture, and don't be afraid of like telling the cons, like telling them like, oh, I built the application this way because first it's like the way they do in my current company, and I think it's smart for this and that reason, but also because I think it's elegant, blah, 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 but I know, for example, for scaling, it's maybe not the best solution or this kind of stuff. So don't be afraid of like seeing the pros and the cons, but try to convince, of course, it's a good way of architecting a website or a mobile application or for data science. It's very fancy, like, I don't know the exact term for that, but I would say analyzing system or something, or algorithm. Especially coming from a background in mobile applications, it's like you are more likely to have like questions about mobile architectures, especially in startups. Let's say if you still apply for big companies, they don't really care about architecture because they are usually not that good architecture. They are more like they're better at solving coding puzzles and challenges. For example, Google architecture questions are not that frequent, or Apple neither. But let's say startups such as Square, Lyft, Uber, they will more likely to ask you about architecture because the team is smaller, so they are like very into the architecture of the application, and they're scaling a lot because they are like, of course, having more and more customers. So they don't want to reinvent the wheel all the time. So they got to have an architecture that scales. So they're trying to do like their best. So we were talking about architecture. So what are the best ways to improve your skills for that? My general tips are like, first, blog posts. blog posts from either companies, from either consultants, from either I don't know, podcaster, whatever. And a lot of blog posts, like from like creators of libraries, if they're posting anything. Also, feel free to like try to like overview and browse like some libraries you're using every day. I know it's not easy, but like let's say if you I don't know, you know, in Rails, if you're using a specific gem or something like that, it can be interesting to look at the architecture and look at the way it works. Even if I'm not saying like the best, I mean the tools you're using every day have the best architecture. The best example I have in mind right now is like CocoaPods for iOS, which was very popular for having a very shitty architecture. And what happened is like they were hosting any iOS library on GitHub, and they were using GitHub as a CDN. So GitHub like just start like complaining about it and try like to not shut down CocoaPods, but they were basically every time CocoaPods was requesting things from GitHub, it was, let's say you have a queue of requests, of course, for GitHub. CocoaPod was appended at the end of the queue all the time. So CocoaPods was for a long time very slow due to that because GitHub was retaining the flow of CocoaPods. And CocoaPods was used by a lot of iOS developers. So even if it's like a very popular library, it doesn't mean like you have the best architecture, but usually just maybe just iOS, but usually they have a good architecture and like good optimizations. You have actually one of my favorite, not podcaster, but talker is his name is Jake Warden. It's like one of the lead Android engineers at Square, and he's always talking about libraries and coding optimizations. He's managing about 9 different libraries on GitHub, and they have all like 5 grand stars each, something like that. So he knows what he's talking about, and every time he refactors something, it's like very crazy. There's a lot of optimizations, and you know about as is using Java, like about the compilation system and what you should do to make you library very light for other mobile applications.
What's his name?
Jake Wharton.
How do you spell it? W-O-T-R?
With the H, yes. Jake. Yep. Yeah, if you look at this GitHub, it's like pretty. This GitHub can talk for himself. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this guy is God. I don't know how he does that. He has maybe no life. I don't know. He's like part of a lot of organization, and he's refactoring all the time.
What are his more popular videos? Oh, I guess it's right there.
Well, it's mostly about Android development. So for me, as I work on Android developer, it's like my God. But if you're coming from the Java world, it's like really good. But it's not the only one. You have a bunch of like developers. Just get to find the right talks. Like feel free to you were coaching like some YouTube channels or like podcasts. Or like let's say the Google I/O. Usually it's a really good example of like good talks because they have like sometimes general talks. I think of like there's this guy named Mike Henless, which is a Google engineer. Is working as I think that's the guy. Let me check. Yeah, that the guy is like working in Google for image compression. So image compression, right? So it's not about Android or like, well, this one is Android. I mean, the image is about Android, but he's actually working on like the zip algorithm and like how to compress images to make it like very light because you're working on mobile applications. And they, of course, you have a problem of volume of data, so you need to surround the data as much as possible. So he's doing like he did some talks at Google I/O. It's really interesting to learn about this kind of stuff. Like a specific technology is like trying to explain you like what you should do generally for compressing stuff. He does some talks every so often in the Ceph. because he works in Mountain View, so I've seen him at Twitter, this kind of stuff. So of course, meetups are like a good example of a meeting you should go to for meeting other engineers and like learning a lot. Usually I go to the one at Realm, which is on Tencent, and Third Realm is like a database management system for mobile applications, and they usually do like about 4 meetings a month. 4 meetups a month. It's like 2 about iOS development and the 2 others about Android applications. But you have others about web development. I know Yelp and Twitter are doing a lot about web development. So it depends. You might find some about DevOps as well, if it's something you're into it. So yeah, feel free to browse the code of like the libraries you're using. Put like the awesome repos are like the best, I would say, source for finding like all the libraries in your ecosystem. So let's say you have one for Ruby, you have one for PHP, one for Go, Android, Java, whatever. You have a bunch of awesome repos, and sometimes try to learn like very tough technologies. Let's say for mobile development, for example, my advice is like, oops, well, I was in the browser. So let's say if you do some Android, like you have this library that's getting popular and more popular. And for example, usually when you apply at companies and and you applying for an Android job and you don't have this kind of library, even if it's kind of tough at the beginning, we will like maybe toss out your application, because now it's like something you should know. It's like the base in or in the good stack of on mobile development. But it's, for example, it's like name React. It's a reactive programming paradigm. You have one for like a bunch of, you have actually one version for a bunch of different languages. It's like the same. It's good to know about functional programming, imperative programming, like no different way of programming. And so yeah, so feel free to look at the awesome repos and like trying to look at the best libraries they have in the awesome repos and try to learn them, to use them. No opinion like, oh, I don't like this library, I prefer doing this way, but it's good to know, because then during an interview you can say like, oh, I don't like this for that reason. And you can chat with the interviewer about the pros and the cons, and you can ask him his opinion, this kind of stuff. So I said meetups, of course, and then my best advice is like, you get to try learning. That's the best way. So build, design, craft something. You want to be a web developer, all right? Try to work on like building a website. Then when you're done with the website, try to, I don't know, build a library, this kind of stuff. Try to like gather a lot of experience. I think it's simply the best way for learning, because it's when you're facing issues, you are improving your skills. Because if you don't face any issue, everything's cool, you think that you're the best, but until you face something tricky, you will not know your real level. Everything good? Nice. All right, so when you arrive on the site, because I'm talking a lot about general tips, so now, concretely, when you're like facing this interviewer, what you should do. So my general advice is like, try to memorize like first the interviewers you are going to meet and their respective position, because it's good to know like what kind of language you should use. If you're meeting a manager, you're not going to talk the same way than you meeting an architect or like I don't know, senior engineer or junior engineer. Just know who you're supposed to talk about and the position. Let's say, oh, you might actually have an interview with the CTO or something, or like this, let's say for a small company, maybe the CEO of the company. So of course the language you're gonna use is not the same, but maybe you already knew that. And also things people sometimes don't do is like try to ask a lot of questions, because none company is like perfect. Like all the companies, they have flaws. Some of them, they have a specific culture. Let's say if you go work for Apple, based on my past experience, it's like they are mostly looking for people who are like Apple fans, who are like getting in line every time there is a new iPhone. No, seriously, every time there is an iPhone, they will go in line. They're like huge fan of the product, but it's something they are expecting in Apple. You're supposed to be fan of the culture. At Google, you're supposed to, for example, be more like very scientist and very interested in like learning all the time, reading a bunch of like papers from either like Stanford, Berkeley, reading a lot about school and math and data modelization, this kind of stuff. So try to know about the culture and try to identify red flags because you're gonna work with these people. So if you can ask, some tricky questions or try to, maybe even if they're like interviewing you, maybe they're not having a great time in the company. So it would be good to know that before starting. Even if you can, of course, quit the job whenever you want, but it would be kind of bad on your resume, like to see like every 2 months you're like quitting your job and getting a new one. As a recruiter, I might not want to hire you in this situation. So try to identify the red flags before, especially like try to identify, the personality of the people you might work with. They're like outgoing people, are they smart people, are they like trying to manipulate you, this kind of stuff. So I've actually listed like a couple of questions over there that you might not think about. So let's say the one I try to ask to everyone, or kind of, is like asking them why they joined the company originally, and then as soon as they are like in service one, you're like, why are you staying? And you can sometimes like figure like what's happening. Like some of them, they don't know what to say. Like I end up in this interview in a big company where like the guy wasn't capable of answering this one. He was like, I don't really know why I stay. So I'm like, okay, well, since maybe it doesn't have a lot of fun, or I don't know, didn't really prepare his interview. Maybe I'm like, it's kind of a red flag. Then of course, well, the second one, you don't ask it to the manager itself, but you can ask like your future teammates. Thanks to what I said before, like memorize like what position they have to change the questions depending on this respective position. So I ask about the manager itself, like is the manager good? What kind of like management do you do? Do you do like stand-ups every day? Do you have like goals every week? Let's say some companies like, for example, I work at Lyft, and we have like a very like cycle of like releasing applications. Like we release an application every week. So that's something you might want to know before starting, this kind of stuff. Of course, you want to know about the pace, like what's a classic work. Like some of them will tell you, oh, I work 40 hours a week. Others, when you start asking this kind of question, don't really want to answer because you figure later that they actually work 70 hours a week. So they, of course, have like rules to not mention that because if I tell you I work 70 hours a week, you're gonna appreciate it. Or let's say, for example, there is this, like maybe you've heard about that, the Google, for example, tell you like, oh, you have like, I guess, what, 15% of your time, you can do whatever you want. It's actually not true when you ask like it's true in some departments, but some not true in some teams. So ask this kind of like details. And don't be afraid of like, even if like you think like this, some of these questions are maybe rude or tough, they're actually not rude or tough. Like if the guy doesn't want to answer you, it's not forced to do it. But you can at least observe if he's comfortable in answering this kind of question, if he's like transparent about the company or not. Because it's good for you. They want to know these things before starting. Also for the manager or like one of your director or whatever, you might want to ask like, oh, we work will be assessed in the first weeks, like what are the goals and this kind of stuff, because you want to know like what kind of commitment you should be ready for. Like if the guy's like, oh, I expect you to work 80 hours a week and be ready with a pager, this kind of stuff. Just be ready in your mind that it's going to be tough at the beginning. Like let's say you start working for Amazon, you get to know they have a pager and they're like on duty for like 3 days in a row, something like that. And it's kind of annoying because it's in Santa Clara, I guess. or Palo Alto, if you live in a SF and you page at like 3 in the morning, it's gonna be a long commute and not very comfortable. So just know this kind of thing before starting. Again, you can check the Glassdoor, for example, but it's better to ask like the people directly because you can observe like their reaction and what they think about the company. Also, general question like, what do you like? Try to like, well, dislike, usually they will like they're not trying to with this question. Or like try to ask about the tools, libraries they're using, about the process, like how do you ship something, this kind of stuff. Any question about that? Like, cool. Nothing you got surprised. You were already asking these questions? Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it's almost over. I think it's my last slide. Then I mean, before questions, of course. So last advice, well, dress up appropriately. Depends on where you're going. You might want to wear a shirt if you're going to pass interviews for Google or Apple, but you might want just to wear a t-shirt if you're going to a very small company. It's only up to you. Not your mom, I'm not gonna teach you that, but of course, don't be late. It's pretty bad. We see it. It's like you're gonna tell me it's pretty obvious, but we still see some people showing up late. It's kind of annoying, even if you're really smart and I want to hire you. Like if you're late, it's not gonna be a great thing. Be polite. Well, pretty obvious. Be polite, but well, okay. Be polite is something behavior we observe usually. It's, let's say, when you're more senior, it's like we usually ask you like very easy questions, and they're like, we know you already know the answer, but usually we ask best to observe your reaction, and some people would be like, it's too easy, I don't want to answer this question. Here as an interviewer, I'm like, all right, so you think you're too smart to answer my basic question, and it's a really really big red flag when I'm interviewing senior people. I already know like it's pretty straightforward for you, but I just want to see like how you react. And you think it's not happening, but it's happening a lot. Like a bunch of people are like, when you ask them like a very tricky puzzle, they're like, oh yeah. And then as soon as you ask like a very easy, super duper easy question, they're like, I don't want to answer this question. Or are you like, well, are you kidding me? Not fucking give me, but are you kidding me? Also, if you have a lunch interview, maybe another way of that, but they're supposed to be like question answer. So feel free to ask whatever you want to the interviewer, because usually they're not recorded. The interviewer you have for the lunch interview will not like track what the question you ask. So feel free to ask whatever you want. Sometimes when you're passing some lunch interview, the guy don't want is focused on the food and not like answering any good questions. So that can be a red flag. You're making them it's happening. Also, try to identify some red flag. Also, when you pass the interview, something didn't put anywhere. But let's say you're talking to your interviewer, it's like next to you for like a pairing, doing some pairing cutting or whatever, and you realize he's like on his phone, like reading his emails. Try to not look at the phone, but like try to find basically if it's like looking at the email or like just looking at the text or something like that, because it means like he's not really caring about you. That can be a red flag. Or let's say it's like looking at something like he's being paid or like an email, like you would like show that you get to be really multitasking the company, and even like if you're supposed to be focused on something, you might be like disturbed all the time. That can be another signal, this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's happening a lot. Usually it's happening more and more with smartphones. They're always like checking Slack or emails during an interview. And also my advice, maybe because I drink a lot, but try to get a bottle of water, because sometimes they forget to give you one, and you can stay in a room up to like 4 hours. Sometimes sometimes they forget to ask you if you want to go to the bathroom as well. So feel free to say you want to go to the bathroom or you want a break. Because usually they just like, it's different rounds, and like an engineer is leaving and an engineer is coming. Yep. And think. Oh no, it's not over. Sorry. Sorry, I thought it was over. No, it's actually not over. I guess I have a couple of slides. So I'm gonna change. Yeah, I'm like not the common path, but let's say you didn't get the job. I'm gonna talk about the if you got the job. But if you didn't get the job, here's like, all right. I know it's sad. You feel very frustrated, especially if you did your best and you don't understand why. So maybe it's time to, well, first thank you like the interviews and like the people team you had for the time. Just try to stay fair play and be nice with the people because it's not sometimes it's not only due to you. It's because someone else smarter show up and they wanted to hire you, but they have only one job, or like they cannot hire someone anymore. They don't have money anymore, whatever. So it's not only about your skills and the way you did the interview. So try to be nice because you might meet these people again later. So try to ask for feedback and advice, like why did you fail, this kind of stuff. It's better if you have someone on the phone because usually by email they will not get back to you like 90% of the time. But if you have like someone from the human resources or from the people team on the phone, just like, hey, do you know why I fail? Or like, do you have any feedback further to my interviews and my application, blah, blah, blah. Try to add them on LinkedIn if you had like a great feeling with them, and of course, well, try to apply again if it was really the company and the job you wanted. Yep.
If it's a 4 or 5 stage process, is there a point where it's inappropriate to add them on LinkedIn before we actually?
Well, okay.
Does that make sense? Like you're interviewing the same person and you're speaking to them 3 times. After that second time, is it appropriate to add them to LinkedIn, or is that?
Well, let's say you have like someone from the people team on the phone. You're like, can we stay in touch on LinkedIn? Like at least add someone from the people team or something like that. If you had a great feeling and maybe you have his email address, something like that, let's say you pass him for the interview, they might have sent you something like then like an email to thank you for the time and like be like, do you want to stay in touch on LinkedIn? And they might add you or something like this. Don't try to add like all of the interviewers you had on LinkedIn for sure. And it's not LinkedIn is not like it's not I guess a goal itself to like add people on LinkedIn, but like at least like the person from the people team because in the future that would be your main point of contact. But if you had a feeling with like the dev lead or whatever, or like you had lunch with him before or whatever, like feel free to add him and then like ping him again like a few months after. Yeah. At least, yeah, someone from the people team, especially if you're thinking of applying again, because, yeah, it would be faster the next time. And usually they're, like, pretty happy to do that. Like, I've never heard a no. That would be surprising, but... All right, so in case you really got the job, like, all right, you did it. So now it's... yeah, well, there is a general line list. I guess it's the actually slide after, but anyway, so if you got the job, you get to finish the deal. So first I will add my advice like reviewing with attention your contract, even if I know it's long, it's boring, it's full of terms you don't understand, but try to like read it fully, especially look at like the vacation policy. Like I was interviewing for some startups where you work like 70 hours a week and you have only 10 days a year. So that might be kind of a red flag, except if you don't care about having a life. But try to like anticipate this kind of stuff. Like look at the vacation policy. Let's say, well, I know it's fancy. Look at the stock options or whatever terms they use for that. Look at the medical insurance, kind of important in this country. Especially if you're thinking of like doing some climbing this weekend or hiking. Look at like, yeah, so vacation policy, how many hours you're supposed to work a week. If not, like if there is a limit or anything like that. Let's say you have stock options, when can you vest them? Like how many of stock options do you get every year? This kind of stuff. Non-disclosure agreement, of course. Sometimes the policy of the company, can you work, let's say you work for Uber, can you work for Lyft as a next job like 1 month after? Like some company, they force you to sign some papers where you're not supposed to work for a new company, working in the same field before, I don't know, a year or something like that. So just be careful of that. Of course, try to negotiate what is your payroll. That is only up to you. Um, but usually, as I guess you all work, so you all know like he's gonna take 1 year to get the raise on your payroll. So might be the best time for negotiating a lot, and then like, you can ask for smaller steps in the future. Yeah. And yeah, so if you, of course, passing a lot of interviews, I guess then I'll put it in the other slide, but whatever, like something I didn't mention is when you're passing final on-site interviews, try to manage your skill because they're going to be very intense for a lot of them. Like don't try to do all of them in a row, otherwise you're going to die, or you're going to be like very addicted to coffee and vitamin C or whatever, cocaine maybe. So try to like space them, especially if you have a job in the same time. Let's say you're applying for the companies and you still have to current work. Try to like do maybe maximum 2, maybe 3 interviews a week, but usually they take you up one entire afternoon or maybe 1 day for some of them. Let's say you need to go to Mountain View and you're working the steps, it's gonna take you 1 day. So it's gonna be a lot of like commuting, stress, and a lot of exercising. It's like very intense, of course. So yeah, try to make some room between them, and yeah, try to be smarter. Like try to, for example, put like a big interview with a big company and then like a smaller one or something like that. As I was mentioning before, sometimes it's like only 2 hours. Sometimes I spend like 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours in a row. So yeah, 8 hours in a row was super long. It was a startup in the SF. Like I started like at 10, was done at 7, something like that. Yeah, that was a long day. That was like I was happy to go home. But that was a good experience. I mean, a good experience to take with interview. I didn't join the company, but that was like, a good experience to like test your limits and like observe if you can do it. And if you're still capable at the end of the day to be like clear and like still like be into the application if you still have the motivation. Yeah, so I was saying, so if you have multiple offers, well, that is my advice, but some people, they would prefer focusing on money. It's up to you. For my part, I would less focus on the money. I mean, money is important, of course, because you want to go on vacation, you want to buy stuff, you want this new iPhone 7. So money is important, but I think experience is important as well, and mostly the culture of the company, because you cannot work every day in this company. So if you don't like the people, if you like corporations, like maybe you shouldn't work for either Uber or Google. But if you really need to corporations, like go into these companies. If you think like if you're really ambitious and you want like your goal is like to move into the hierarchy, that's the best environment. So yeah, try to think to figure if you like if the culture is a great fit for you, and if they are matching, of course, your own interest. Like, are you right now trying to working into a startup, or are you trying to like just do your job and like after 40 hours a week you just want to go home and like do other stuff? Just like what you in mood for right now. Like, are you ready for committing a lot or not? Like, it's only up to you. But be careful of that. And so yeah, so like blind you on site interview wise, yeah, just talk about that before, don't socialize yourself. And my general advice is like try to pass as many interviews as possible because they are like the best source of experience. They are free for you. I mean, free in terms of like money, except like maybe a ticket for the car train. But they are the best source of experience because you're gonna be in a stressful situation. You will see how you react when you're like stressed out. When you're something you don't have a solution. It happened to me and to everyone. Like something you're like in front of the whiteboard, you have no clue of what you're supposed to do, and you have people looking at you. So you get to find a way. You cannot like stand like that and just say like I don't know. So you facing this kind of like situation or like testing your limits. And when you're like trying to get really a job, I would advise you to also pass interviews for job you're not really looking for. because it could be a backup if your current job is very crappy, but also is also very interesting, especially if you new in the if you don't have that much experience in interviews to like try to pass interviews for like other companies. And yeah. All right. So like this time, I think I'm done with my slides. Yeah. So maybe what I will add my right now is like if you have any question or anything you want to share about interviews, or like if you probably disagree with everything I explained, or anything you think, I don't know, your opinion or anything like that, or your past experience as well. I think it's nice to share. So anything you want, you wish you saw in this presentation, or this kind of stuff.
You're looking for like a first junior developer position, an internship or something. Advice on how to start out. Seems like there's kind of an overabundance of people applying for the particular box here.
Yeah, my general advice is don't do web development, but because web development, the problem is like you have, as you said before, you have a lot of people doing that, so you have a lot of concurrence, and also maybe the web, like let's say, except like building like servers and APIs. What's gonna happen in the future is like let's say you want to build like your website, you will use a service such as Weebly or whatever, like what the blog system we used to have for like building a website. You're not gonna build a website from scratch all the time, but but still need some servers. We still need some APIs. I'm the first one using an API as a mobile developer, so I think it would be better to focus on like this kind of stuff. But if you really want to do web development, the companies I have in mind right now could be great. Or like you have Thoughtworks, or what's the name of this one? Atlassian. Atlassian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So working on API, that kind of stuff. Even if you do some JS, like if you're already into front end, like you're good at JS, you can apply for companies such as Slack because they use Electron from GitHub, and so they like all of the Slack application is built around like the JS ecosystem. So it's still completely possible. If you are like, what kind of technology do you use for the backend?
No.
No. Okay. Well, if you're applying for junior web developer for using Node.js, like first you get to know about Graham, Gulp, Yeoman, these kind of just the tools. Of course, Node.js you get to, if I say Express, you should know what I'm talking about, of course. And then if you're trying to highlight your front end skills, you get to know about Sass, about you get to know the CSS3. You have like if we need to talk about front end, like you have a display flex and this kind of stuff, which is pretty new and very interesting for building UIs. If you do some JS, if you do some JS, like know about the most popular frameworks, I guess right now it's like either React, Angular, or Ember, and know about different technologies, like maybe try some CoffeeScript, some TypeScript. I know some people are like moving a lot with TypeScript because it's getting better and better. CSS is free, so Sass or less, like all the ecosystem, all the tools, try to follow some newsletters. And then for backend, I mean, Node.js, I'm not such an expert in Node.js, but maybe try to explain the way you're building websites, like in Node.js, like what architecture do you usually use, like how many models do you have, what kind of libraries do you use? Do you prefer Express? I guess you have others for creating routes, like managing your model view controller, this kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but try to learn a lot about the ecosystem, or like very edge questions, like let's say, how do you do what's the name, a sprite in CSS. So when you have like a bunch of images and you just like crop, let's say instead of having like 10 different small icons, you all put them into a big image. It's named sprite, and then you crop just the part of the big image you want to. Let's say you put like an icon for creating a new content on your website, something for editing and something for deleting, instead of having like a big. So instead of having 3 different icons, you have a big one. You load just once, and then you just like crop the part you're interested for, or like CDN, or like this kind of. Yeah, exactly. What's up?
The rating system on Yelp is like that?
Well, didn't know, but yeah.
And then it just moves it up and down.
Yeah, yeah. We just know like, or maybe how to publish a CDN, like let's say you need to publish a new version, this kind of stuff, or do you cache things, this kind of stuff. Let me think about it, like questions you had in web development. Yeah, mostly edge questions like that. Yeah. Anything else? Any other question? Anything you want to talk about?
I feel like I've gotten a lot of questions on browser technologies. When the DOM is finished loading, how we interact with the DOM, what the DOMs are, browser-specific variables are, like window, documents.
You mean questions you usually ask, or
Oh, these are
questions?
questions I've been interviewed about.
Okay.
Or,
Like the different events of like you can capture. Okay.
it's like browser-specific.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on like companies. Like as I said before, you should check out in Glassdoor what they are more likely to ask for. It's it's pretty broad. Like you have like so many things you can talk about. Like web development is the worst one because you can talk a lot about the UI. You can talk, the front end, a lot about the back end. So it's really huge. Like should you use HTML, or should you use, I don't know, like Slim or Haml or something else? Should you use CSS, SAS, pure CSS? Yeah, so it's a pretty. So you can have a bunch of questions. Depends, like if the position is more about oriented like front end or back end. Usually it's written in the job offer. Usually if it's front end, you're more likely to have this kind of question. But if you're like mostly back end engineer, or like front end is like not the skill they require first.
Yeah.
If they say like, oh, front end would be a good thing to have. It would be more about like, what do you like, I don't know, a database, or do you like run the cron job or this kind of job. So yeah.
You've been at Lyft for 3 months now?
That's correct.
Cool. Because you were at Cosh before, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I changed my job, about 3 or 4 months ago. Talk about my experience. I was a full stack developer, but mostly doing mobile development. Like I did a bunch of web development before, and I moved to mobile. Yep.
Curious, what's your education background?
So I got a degree from France. I have like a master's degree in computer science.
Okay.
Not something not from a fancy college or something like that. Sylvester, yeah.
What was your what was your undergrad bachelor's?
Yeah,
Also computer science.
yeah, exactly.
You have time to talk about algorithms or some puzzles? If that's part of this.
Oh, you mean like adding kind of stuff?
Yeah. I was actually kind of wondering. More like,
Okay, let's think about it. I would say like about like general puzzles, like not something technology related, because for left was like more technology related. But let's say for Google, it was the phone interview was about, like, let's say you have a sequence of elements, and they give you a sum. can you return like 3 elements that are equal to the sum? The sequence, of course. Pardon me?
Dynamic programming kind of problem like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of dynamic programming. First, like they give you just the specifications, and they're not very clear. Like, is that a big sequence? Is that not a big sequence? Then it turns out like that actually the sequence is about like millions of elements. So the algorithms are not the same. Also, they are not like integers, but they are like floating numbers. So it's kind of stuff. So I guess it's like in the book we talk about that. Like when you see like the problem is not very well defined, like ask questions, because then first what they expect, and then try to find the best solution. So let's say in this kind of situation, when you have this problem, you can say I'm going to test like any combination possible. So that would be n power 3, and that might take a long time, especially if you have 1 million elements. So it turns out that actually it's better to sort the list first, and then do find the 2 first ones, and then do a binary search tree because it's already sorted. But if
You're not
you
actually gonna go over any problems or anything like.
not really, because they're like mostly they're all from the correcting the code interview. You have the some yeah, they're like it's basically the problem the other there. I had like problem let's say in the startup it was like compute the height of the binary search tree. So pretty sure it's in the book.
Can you compute the what?
The height of a binary search tree.
Oh, okay.
And or return a boolean to denote if the binary search tree is well balanced.
Cool. It's funny. There's a Python like that. Their coding interview. It's all algorithms. They discuss algorithms every Thursday here in Turner.
Yeah, I knew it was Python, but I didn't know they were chatting. I mean, discussing algorithms.
Yeah, it's a good class.
Okay.
I'm unavailable Thursdays. So
all right. Apple was actually let's say the phone interview is actually pretty straightforward. The one I had was the end of a merge algorithm. So you have the 2 sorted lists, and you want to merge them into a sorted list, and then they ask you to improve that by removing duplicates from the list. And what else did they ask? I think on some interviews they ask about like there was a parsing thing. Parsing. Okay. Parsing a number, like a literal number, return the number, like the integer that is equal to. Let's say I have like 123 written as a string. I want to parse it into like 123. Yeah, I have a number as is a literal form, and I want to parse it and return an integer of this number.
I'm sorry, what?
The problem, for example, I had at Apple was like you have 123 written like 123 with using the English language, yeah, as a string, and you want to parse it and return an integer.
Sure.
That was a problem. Another one, more abstract, was like running a function returning like random numbers. So a random number generator.
Sorry, what was that?
Yep, sorry.
Just right now.
Writing a random number generator.
Just whatever remember from like ever know what it is.
Yeah, well, the implementation, like the details they give you is like you have different models for random number generators, but I guess like they say like if they give you the same SID, which is the thing you use for initializing your random your generator, they should return the same numbers. Like let's say I rerun your generator from scratch, it should return the same numbers in the same like order.
How do you write a random number generator from scratch? I've never
So you have actually articles on Wikipedia for that. You can use I guess the most common one is like you use three prime numbers, three really big prime numbers, and something like this. Yeah, it's something like that. You need three big prime numbers, and you compute it this way. So it's so of course you have the seed, which is the original one, and then you have like three big prime numbers, and the next element from the sequence is obtained using this math formula. So it's ax plus b modulo m, and they are all very big prime numbers. And of course, we're using this generator. You can only generate like n unique numbers. But you have like different methods, like big Wikipedia article on like random number generation.
Wait, m is the number of numbers to generate, or the length?
Well, it's up to you. Like it's like the A, B, and M are like determined at the beginning of the generator, like at the initialization of the generator.
Cool. I'll have to read that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
That's the only one I know. I mean, like the complex one, like. But yeah, it all depends on the company. Like Google, Apple, they're mostly going to have questions like that. I think Microsoft is really the same. It's usually a question. Yeah, I didn't talk about Microsoft in my presentation, but usually it's gonna be like questions like that. Like very, you get to know some papers about it, or like science. It's more about like knowledge, like science knowledge. Yeah, so usually it's in an on-site interview. You might have like two puzzles, one question about architecture, and then you have more sometimes like a personal interview. And by that I mean like they're more asking about your motivation and the way you work and what you did before, this kind of stuff. And they're trying to maybe they're gonna be like sometimes they might be tricky questions. Let's say I have this kind of question where they ask you first, like, what's your recent failure or something like that, and then what's the thing you're most proud of, and they start like this, and then at the end of the conversation, it's like more about like, tell me once in your life when you really bite the dust, and what did you do to, to move forward. Be ready to this kind of question, because usually when you're ready they have like usually a path. They don't start with this question, or otherwise you will freak out. So usually they start with simple questions, and I guess it's like kind of like talking to a therapist, and they drive you to where they want to go. And just be careful of because you're not gonna see it. Like, be careful of what you're saying, and if you really want to be honest, or if you want to hide some stuff to them. Yeah, then it's more like edge questions. We talked about like, let's say, CDN, DOM events is like a good example. Like DOM events, you mentioned like this kind of edge questions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye. Thank you for coming. These kind of questions. And about the architecture, as mentioned before.
Thank you so much for putting this together.
Yeah, a pleasure. I'm gonna send the slides at the end, so no worries if you miss the notes.
Would you be posting it to the rest school?
Yeah, exactly. They will be in the link would be in the whiteboard, like right there.
Oh, right there.
Yeah. I'm gonna post them like tonight.
Got it. Who else was? I guess I know a couple of these people.
What's up?
I knew a couple of the people who were supposed to come.
Oh, okay. Well, there is a baseball game tonight. I don't know. Yeah, this guy is a god in my field.
Looks like he had one day off the past year.
No, he's actually he's working all the time. I don't know, but.